Evening, everyone. Let me call to order tonight's meeting of the Merrimack Planning Board on today, February 21st, 2023, here in the Matthew Thornton Room. The next meeting will be on March 7th, 2023 at 6:30 in this same room. For tonight's meeting, let me do the usual reminders of making sure everybody has their microphones turned on. Please speak clearly into them and introduce yourself, name, address, before telling us what you have. For tonight's meeting, let me put in Nelson in for Brian Dano, Maureen in for Neil Anketel, and Halim, you're going to be in for Bob Best. That should be it. On to number 2, Planning and Zoning Administrators Report. Robert, what do you have for us tonight?
I have nothing tonight, Mr. Chair.
Nothing tonight. Thank you, Robert. Also on the agenda, which is item number 3, is the consent agenda, which seems to have no items on it tonight. Robert, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. On to item number 4, which is Black Diamond Holdings LLC as the applicant and MM Realty Trust as the owner. This is continued review for final approval of a site plan for the redevelopment of an existing automotive/junkyard use into a 102,600 square foot warehouse and associated site improvements. The parcel is located at 734 Daniel Webster Highway in the C2 commercial, general commercial, and aquifer conservation districts. That's tax map 7E, lot 31, case number planning board 2022-36. This item is continued from the October 18th, November 15th, December 20th, and January 17th planning board meetings. Robert.
Just quickly, last time the applicant was here was January 17th. As you recall, they had submitted the full DOT traffic study that was required by the state. We sent that up for peer review. Peer review came back just fine. Conditions of approval, proposed conditions of approval have been updated to reflect any significant changes there. And the only other issue that we had, if you want to call it issue, is that you recall we commented on the retaining wall to the south property line being in the setback, and we would have requested a continuance to go to the ZBA for that. Applicant has indicated, I believe, to the board that they could regrade, and I believe the applicant wants to speak to that tonight. Outside of that, I've got no further comment.
Thank you, Robert. The applicant, please introduce themselves and then tell us what you have.
Good evening, Matt Peterson with Keach Norsham Associates, here representing the development of 734 DW Highway. As Robert said, we kind of went through everything last time. We had added the sidewalk per the comments from the previous application. We had removed the parking out front and let it be landscaping in a phase 1. We had addressed the majority of CLD's comments. However, the DOT had not gotten back to us yet and been submitted. So that now has been submitted. We have got comments from them as well as your review engineer. As Robert said, everything came back relatively clean for a traffic study. The one thing that we have to supply back to the DOT is if you take a look at the aerial photo in front of you here, you'll notice that there's a center gore lane currently. Our traffic study utilized that in their study for the left turns heading north into the site. The DOT does not feel that's appropriate and would like it restriped accordingly. So GPI is working on those plans and we'll submit those back to the to the state. But that was the level of the traffic study. Like I said, it was 38 trips in the evening and 31 in the morning. So it wasn't a lot of traffic on the peak hours coming and going. So that's been done. And then as Robert stated, I had redone the grading before the last hearing just to make sure it worked so that he didn't have to come back to you guys. But down, just give me a second. Sorry for this. Down along this corner right here, as this wraps around here, this was a 9-foot wall previously. We've now since reduced it to 2 feet as it begins, goes up to 4 feet, gets to the high of 4 feet. We graded above the wall and below the wall to make it work now so that it's not a structure. And then it makes its way back down to existing grade and 2 feet at this point here. So currently, this meets the requirement that it's not a structure and can be in this location per you guys' regulations. I'm sure Robert will do a final check on that when I gave him the final plan set, but we do not feel that we need the variance at this point here. As stated at the last hearing, we did add in the bike rack so that we're not asking for that waiver. And I left the vehicle charging waiver in front of the board there. It's, again, not really a waiver, I guess. It's a recommendation by you guys. So we would prefer not to put them on this site here. I gave my arguments last time. Some understood, some don't. It's kind of where it's at. I think it goes backwards and forwards on both of these now, and I think it'll all shake itself out in a few years and what people want and where they end up putting it. Again, I'm not going to lose the project over that. If the board feels it's necessary, we'll put in the one or two that's on the site there. But again, that's where we stood with it. Pretty straightforward at this point here. We've been to a few hearings with you guys. It seems like I'm the only thing on the agenda, so I could talk for a while, I guess. Usually you have a whole agenda behind me, but I'll kind of open it up for comments or questions. We do have fire department comments that came in. We are working on we'll address his comments and make sure there's access around the 3 sides that was requested. Currently, we're just finishing up the AOT comments, which have to do with this underground system that's here. And we actually this afternoon kind of had the numbers finished, and that'll be going back up to the state and should have that permit within the next 30 days or so as well. So we're kind of at the last few steps of the project. I think we've addressed what was kind of brought in front of us as we went through this process. But again, I can answer any questions or comments you guys have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Board members, it looks like we have already accepted this project, so we're literally just sitting here waiting for conditional final approval. Is there anything we'd like to jump on first? Questions?
I just had several things I wanted to ask Matt about, but,
Please, Mr. Disco, go ahead.
okay, I can go ahead. First of all, my maps are old, so I don't see the sidewalk on the plans that I have because I'm working with old plans. I just got today's plans, around 4 o'clock, so. But, I don't know if it's on there or not, Matt, but, I'm sure it'll fit.
So here's a revised grading plan.
Oh, okay,
I was just showing you up there.
yeah,
And you'll notice the sidewalk is called out right there.
yep, okay, yeah. That's right, you've got a very short, frontage on Route 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
Wasn't a lot to, unlike the vault storage or those ones there, it's pretty short
Yeah.
section to put it
but
in.
your comments, you had some comments on the traffic study, and I think I understood it. You were gonna make a left turn lane going north, and they don't want to do that. Did I understand?
Nope. We thought that, so currently out there, does it zoom in? Yes, it does. Currently out there, there's a center gore area already. We utilized that and said that that's where they're turning. And the DOT said, no, make it a clean lane for them. Don't have the 2 yellow lines on each side and let somebody take a left turn designated as a left turn lane. So we're going to have to put probably an 1-inch overlay for about 100 feet in both directions and then restripe it.
Oh,
So that
okay.
they'll have a designated
So
left turn into
so
the
instead
side.
of having
So
a
you will
suicide
have a
lane,
left turn lane.
you'll have an actual
That's fine.
Okay, I didn't understand from what you had.
Yep.
initially
Yeah, I didn't either.
dead man's lane,
Yeah.
whatever they're calling.
Yeah.
Suicide lane.
There was an issue with building elevations not being shown. I presume that's been taken care of.
At the last hearing, we had submitted all the elevations. We had gone through them with the, we had gone through them with the, board here and showed you the windows and the,
Yeah, somewhere there.
Yeah, I thought I did remember seeing them, but I can't. Now they say that else, and I don't see them in the packet.
So we had showed you these ones last time. We had done all the windows and you had determined that the windows broke it up nicely instead of doing some of the changing of it.
I remember now.
Okay, yep,
Thank you.
no problem.
Okay, those were just things that I had on my checklist, and it seems that we've taken care of them. All the drainage is being handled on-site through on-site infiltration, is that right? Yeah,
We have
except for a little bit.
Yep,
Yeah.
we have underground storage and infiltration. Well, actually, we have underground storage. This is mostly all ledge on this site here, so it's big underground chambers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But all meeting AOT requirements. So
Yeah.
alteration train requirements are all taken into consideration on this project.
that's all I had, Mr. Chairman, and I think he's taken care of all the questions I had from previous reviews.
Thank you, Mr. Disco. Board members, any other questions? Robert, what were the comments the fire department had? I know, Mr.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. The comments that the fire department had. that he brought up, are they outstanding or are they just the normal comments they usually?
No, the biggest one that is left out is that this backside here, they would like access to the third side of the building. So that's what I'm in the process of designing right now, coming down to this corner here.
Okay. Would staff would be okay with handling that administratively?
Yeah, as a condition of approval, too, he's got to address the fire department comments anyway. So, yep, he'd have to make the fire marshal happy before
Ms.
we
Christensen,
can
I'm
sign.
sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
Not a question, just a comment. I am so pleased that these guys are developing this site so that we don't end up with another Corbin's Auto Body.
You might be talking.
I'm dating myself, but it's out there and it's still out there and
I know what you mean.
I'm gonna have to look that up later.
I'm pleased they're doing this. And they're
Instead
doing
of
it,
4-story apartments,
and they're doing it right.
trying.
Thank you, Ms. Christensen. Anything else? Given we've already accepted this application, we can entertain a motion for conditional final approval. Given that there are no waivers attached to it.
I'll make one if I can find it.
Okay. Take your time, Mr. Disco. As you can see, we have a very busy night.
Nobody else
Yes,
has
ma'am.
any further comments then?
So just back to, in regarding the electric charging, you knew I was gonna say that. So I did start like looking at different buildings in both Massachusetts and New Hampshire, different commercial buildings. And I was surprised, so I started to really notice. Some places had like 5, 6, 7 of them, never mind 1 or 2. So again, I just really think that maybe even just having one might be a good idea. So I'm just gonna go back to that. That's the future. So, but I get you might have some different opinions, but
Well,
as a recommendation.
It's not that. I think in anything, it's to say it's the future is a question. I mean, that's just the way it is. But I think the biggest thing you see, and I guess I would ask this of potentially as you guys do your workshop, stuff like that. We're hearing that a lot of these facilities are having their 18-wheelers potentially looking at electric. They're going to put in charging stations if that's their need. You know, I just bought my food at Whole Foods today for lunch. They have charging stations. That's what they want. I mean, the consumer is going to drive the use of those there. By you adding 1 or 2 at the planning board level here, it means 0 to the guy who's looking at the road network. What's here? What's his use and that kind of stuff. So I hear what you're saying. To me, the users are going to generate a lot of what they're going to put here. If this became a storage facility in the future, didn't need something like that. I don't know. I don't really care. It's an argument I don't need to have either direction. Everybody has their opinion that I don't want. If the board feels we got to put one, make a condition on that. If you don't make a condition on it.
I'd be willing to let them put them in as they need it. That'd be my,
Given the size of the site and what it's being used for, yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Vasily.
Thank you. Seeing how the use for the site is a warehouse, I don't see that necessarily we need to include that as a demand on the plan. So I would not be in favor of pushing that right this time. If this was a different thing, if this was a development, if this was, more of a retail structure, then, we might want to look into that. And there is a bill currently in the House. But for this type of use, it's a warehouse.
Correct.
Like, just to give an example, my friend owns a residential building behind Homestead, the new apartments that all went in there, and they put in a charging station. She can never use it because it's busy. So she's gotten a garage and she plugs in now to her garage to do her car. So like, I'm just saying, like, they kind of find their ways that it makes sense. And I agree with you. Residential development with 200 homes in it, probably should have put 10 in. Instead of 1.
Correct.
Or 2.
We'll make note.
This one where it's not, like you said, these are employees that are coming here. I'm pretty sure my boss doesn't want to pay to charge up my car while
Yeah.
I'm sitting at my desk. I just kind of feel that.
My work has it just because they consider it a tax write-off in the state
Oh,
that I
okay.
work in. So
Okay, yeah, it could be that.
they have like 12 of them. But no, I agree. I would not be in favor of forcing them to do it. However, if it was in need of a waiver, I don't think I would grant the waiver. I'm not going to force you to do it, but if the regulations said to do it,
don't need-
I'm not going to let you do it. But yes, we don't need to do that.
Good point.
Any other questions, board members?
So I guess the last thing I would say before a motion is to go through the formality of opening to public comment. Just get that on the record.
No other questions? Okay. Given we have no other questions, the time is now 6:45. I will now open up the public hearing. Any members of the public that wish to step forward and speak on this subject, please do so. Please introduce yourself and then tell us what you have. He still has to introduce himself.
To do that. John Manueli, Merrimack Fire Marshal. I just wanted to discuss the other outstanding comment, which was the hydrants.
Oh, I didn't know there was that.
Yep.
If you need hydrants, we'll be putting on hydrants.
Right, because right now the only hydrant is on the road coming in, and
Yep.
if we hit that hydrant, we've blocked the entire access to the building.
And where would you like that hydrant?
We'd be looking at probably those two locations there.
One there and there?
Yep, one on each corner. That would give us access to the, and especially if we get access to the back of the building.
Okay. Just want to, I know that the mechanical room and that, they're kind of, the water main is coming up and in. So you want it off this side, you're saying?
Typically, just to give you the heads up, we've got a bunch of these warehouses coming in town.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are giving us 4-side access and 4 hydrants.
Okay.
So where you've got limited access, we definitely want at least the 2
Yeah.
on the 2 far corners there.
No issue. Done.
Matt, show on the map, please, where he's asking for the
Yep, so
hydrants.
he's talking, let's just zoom out a little bit here.
So
He's
right
looking
now
for
there's,
one up in the corner, the northeast corner here.
Okay,
And then one, this is all pavement down here. So are you thinking all the way at the end, or are you thinking as you come around the
wherever
corner?
on that stretch that you can give it to us.
Somewhere here.
We're trying not, like I said, show them where the only other hydrant is on that access road coming in. Nope, coming in the access.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the only hydrant right now that I saw on the
Down
site
here,
plan
right?
will probably block that entire road if we actually have to put a hose on it. So that's why we want a couple more on the property. And again, not knowing what's going in that building, we want to have adequate water supply.
makes sense.
Correct.
Yeah, we'll work with them to locate them accordingly.
Yes.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Can I just ask a question? So is it, because I don't know this, so it's the responsibility of the person building, because there was already a building there, right?
Correct.
So but you're designing a new place, so it's their responsibility to put in the hydrants, not the town's? I didn't know that, so I'm learning something tonight. Oh, okay.
She is teaching.
You do maintain them. though.
I don't, but the MVD does.
MVD maintains them
Unless
and
it's a
it's
private hydrant.
The town usually does.
MVD maintains them, yes, and it's really up to the surrounding residents and businesses to clear them because MVD has limited staff and they should not be running around shoveling about.
It was just a
Good.
big problem about 10 years ago. People weren't keeping them up, as you know. So
Right.
That's why you got
inspection went back to
the
town.
big
Right.
sticks and flags on them.
That's right.
Yes,
That's correct, and we test them frequently. Is that all, Captain Manueli?
that's all I have.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Peterson, you'll have no issue dealing with the fire department to get those installed? Okay. Any other members of the public that wish to step forward and speak on this item? Going once, going twice, not seeing any. I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:49. Board members, if we have no other questions, do we have a motion?
Motion if you are.
Mr. Disco, please.
Okay, understanding that we understand right now that the charging stations are not included.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And in that case, I make a motion to find that with the granted waivers and the proposed conditions of approval, the site plan application meets all applicable regulatory requirements, and further, to grant conditional final approval to the site plan, subject to the recommended conditions of approval presented in the staff memo dated February 15th, 2023.
Second.
And the addition of the hydrants, which was not in the staff memo.
Correct. I have a motion made by Mr. Disco, seconded by Ms. Healy. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining. That is 7-0-0 in favor of the motion. Thank you very much, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is item number 5, which is Starleton Realty LLC is the applicant and owner. This is continued review for acceptance and consideration of final approval for a site plan of the addition of a gas station, convenience store, and drive-through coffee shop at the site of an existing car wash. The parcel is located at 376 Daniel Webster Highway in the C2 General Commercial, Aquifer Conservation, and Elderly Housing Overlay Districts. That's tax map 4D-3, lot 002. This is case number Planning Board 2022-40. This item is continued from the November 15th, December 20th, and January 17th Planning Board meetings. Mr. Price, what do you have for us?
This applicant has requested a continuance to March 21st.
Also move.
So moved,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Disco, since Ms. Healy got the last one. Do I hear any discussion?
Oh,
Not seeing any? All in favor of the motion of continuance, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? That's 7-0-0 in favor of the continuance. Thank you. Next on the list is item number 6. That's S.J. Torres as the applicant and Orrin H. Connell Family Trust as the owner. This is continued review for consideration of a waiver of full site plan review to permit a variety of temporary event uses on site. The parcel is located at 454 Daniel Webster Highway in the C2 General Commercial, Aquifer Conservation, Elderly Housing, and Town Center Overlay Districts. That's tax map 5D-4, lot 54, Planning Board case number 2022-46. This item is continued from the December 6th and December 20th and January 17th Planning Board meetings. Robert, what do you have for us on this item?
So the applicant again was last here in January, or sorry, in this case, it was first meeting of February. Continue this off. Most of the discussion had already been hashed out at that time. There were a couple of outstanding items which I believe the applicant wants to speak to. So I think just turn it over to them and let them speak.
Thank you, Robert. The applicant, please introduce himself once again and tell us what you have.
Hi, good evening, Matt Peterson again with Keach Norsham Associates. As Robert said, this one's kind of trying to find a path through the planning board here that kind of doesn't affect the town and make sure we address all the staff and fire department, everybody's comments as we move this forward. So the 3 questions were related to getting a sign off from other tenants in the development, related to noise, related to possibly negative effects of, as you can see from the residential in the back here, if there was any noise issues that may happen down in here based on the events. SJ is working on that. It's a little bit more difficult to get everybody to like everybody nowadays and give you a letter to sign off. It's pretty much almost impossible, I would say. I think we just had that conversation here about something else. Everybody's got opinions. So I tried to look at possibly putting he writes a letters to me and he calls me his attorney. I'm not really his attorney, so I haven't written these notes to somebody. They're kind of more for planning board and they really leave it pretty open, which a lot of attorneys would not like to do. But I think in this case, it makes sense. I would not have done this on Mel's Funway because of the butter opposition that we had. We would have been back in front of the planning board every single month. But I think in this case, it may make sense. So I put together a couple just notes. I had 3 notes. One of them, Robert, went again, so we're going to talk about that one too.
Thank you, Mr.
So the first one is, as I stated, is to give the board and staff some ability if things don't go exactly as I'm presenting them here today, or as SJ presented them last hearing, or as we think that SJ is going to move things forward because of his past history and stuff like that. So I don't know if we can do something on that, but Robert thought that, the first one would say something where the applicant agrees to come back to the planning board for a discussion and possible changes to his approval should these events cause any issues for the existing tenants of the plaza due to parking constraints, noise issue, or other negative effects to their businesses due to these events. It's very open that, we could be right back here, next month or right after event, but I don't know. I've heard a lot from what he's doing in the town. I've heard a lot about what's trying to be done here. I think this is almost a test pilot, basically, that maybe some other might happen in town. So I went way beyond where any attorney would let me do to say that the board can call him back in because they feel that once you give an approval, that should be the end of it and nobody come back. I think there's too many parameters that maybe we haven't given you everything because we don't know everything that could come up over 2-3 years, and dunk tanks, and maybe they're loud when you hit the buzzer. I don't know, things like that. So I thought that instead of, talking to each tenant and trying to get them sign a letter, this year, if they call the town because it's going on, it's, you guys know me, I'm here every 2 weeks. So guess what? The conversation comes up. So that was kind of the first one. The second one was about music, and, me and my wife like to go watch a lot of music on Fridays or Sunday nights and stuff like that. I think it's a really neat thing. I'm glad that he's trying to do it. But you're right. If you have a band, we have one friend that's got 5 band members, and that's the loudest one. You can hear it all the way up and down the street, and then we have most of them are acoustics. So SJ would said, he's comfortable with the bands. And I said, all music will be limited to acoustic bands of 2 or less individuals to minimize noise from the events. I think that kind of talks to what you guys were looking about, noise complaints potentially. The third one was related to the parking. And that had said that he would secure a letter within 60 days of any event and submit to the staff that he had either parking on the school piece up here, or the Wasserman Park here, if that's possible, or the lobster boat, or else somewhere else in town. Robert feels that should be hammered out more and have a physical letter from one of the entities before, as a conditional approval. I'd like to say it. So that one was not going to be a note on the plan. That will be, SJ was running around all morning today, and this afternoon he called me at 4 and said, please push the meeting. I can't get the letter by tonight. I said, no. Robert asked that it be a condition of it, so we can work towards that over the next couple months. I don't think he's planning any events till, the football season is kind of what he was trying to do last year. Maybe there'll be something midsummer. But we will get a letter that there is off-site parking somewhere else for an event as part of the application, as part of what I'm asking for approval tonight on. So the applicant will be required to submit a letter to staff that says he has the right to park off-site for events.
I'm assuming he's already engaged in conversation.
Oh, yes. He got the right to do that with the school originally, but he didn't have it in writing. Now he's trying to get that in writing. He's saying it might be a little more
Well, if you
difficult.
didn't get it in writing, I'd find it hard to say that you had the right to do it. I could say anybody tells me I could do something unless I have it in writing.
SJ is a little different character. I hear you. I just
I'm
let you
taking
know what he
Lynn's
does.
car home today. I just don't have it in writing. That doesn't make any sense to me, but
You know how to drive now?
And that's why Robert wants it in writing.
I agree.
So it sounds like you're on the same page.
So
we'll get
I know
it in
you
writing.
said he didn't have agreement from everybody. I understand that, but with and you'll have to forgive me. I was not here the last meeting. The owner of the complex or the other tenants in the complex would be okay with blocking off that exit out of. I'm just looking at your plans right here. You have temporary barriers here.
Let me explain from last month, because that one's a little bit, it's not what you're thinking there. So.
I mean, I know they're temporary. You're obviously not
No,
going
no,
to
no,
block
no, no,
off
no,
the exit.
no, understand. So one of the big things was that, so this site currently has access over here and access here. So we had 2 points of access to get in and out through the site here. Then the school uses this to come down this little side slope, and it comes out this way, but these don't connect back through.
Correct.
So we kept this road open all the way through. So we moved the Jersey barrier, so only closing off this area here.
Yeah, it's the big hill.
So tenants couldn't leave and get out on Sunday through this, off this private road that we found last week that's pretty bad and beaten up if you drove on it. It's got a lot of potholes on it, and didn't even realize it was actually, I think we found it was a town road, you said, right? No,
It
it's
is.
not a
No,
town road.
private.
That's
No,
right,
it's
it's a
not.
private. That's right.
That's why it's always such a mess.
So yes, that was the issue, that we had to keep it open from there, but yes, they could not exit that way. And I've gone to the site a lot. I've never gone out that way, but I'm sure people do look at it occasionally. But again, that's why I said if there's issues with anybody, the first event that happens, we're back here. Again,
I don't want to,
I'm not going to get
like you
CVS
said, it's
to
very,
say yes.
it's very vague language, and I agree with you. But I mean, he's comfortable with using that vague language when he can't get people to agree on this beforehand. You see what I'm saying? If nobody wants to agree on this beforehand, because he says nobody's going to agree with him 100%, this just opens them up. The first thing, even with them constructing this, they're going to come to us and say, "Hey, shut this down." Do
Potentially,
you see what I'm saying?
they could absolutely say that.
I don't.
When somebody doesn't like you as a
just do not
person,
want to
they're not gonna
create.
give you a letter no matter
I
what.
don't want to create any more friction with him and his neighbors, or than
Well, that's my
Even if
point.
there
There's
already
already
is.
friction that
That's
some
what
of them
I'm
aren't going to
saying.
give a letter. So if he does the first event and they call and complain, then he's probably not going to do any other ones. You know what I'm saying? Like it would be a one and done. And he's actually looking at other sites right now with me in Merrimack. He's looking to build 2 more.
I would.
sites.
I would.
We may be doing them in other places.
I would.
So this may be a year thing and then we're done.
Hope so. Robert, how would we handle something like that? Would we have to have a whole new meeting? Would we have to do a whole new site plan review? Would we just revoke his ability to have events?
I mean, if the board were to approve the plan, technically this is not just for Tomahawk, it does go for the site. So the site could utilize this plan for events. Anybody could.
When you say the site, you mean like the complex.
Say,
So if Rite Aid wants to have a vaccine drive, they can use that area for a
The
vaccine
martial
drive.
arts guy came in
Yep.
and talked about doing something at one point and
Pet's
we
Choice
yeah.
wants to do a rabies clinic.
Exactly.
told
exactly,
him to
yes.
be in this area.
Yep, they could confine it to that area and do something, yes.
Okay. Board members, please, Ms. Tracy.
So the last time, because they did have events last year, right?
They didn't have anything that shut down like this. No, they weren't allowed to do it.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about the shutdown. I'm concerned about, I guess, the noise is my thought. Did anybody complain about the noise? Was there a complaint?
I haven't heard that there was any noise complaints from them.
Okay.
No.
I think Robert, can you scroll up on this plan a little bit?
I've
I
got it.
can, or yeah,
Yep,
since
what
I
would
can
you
read
like to
this
see?
one far better than I can read the paper one in front of me.
Yeah. What are you looking for?
Is that I'm just looking, the only other close residential property is across that
It's
to the
Hadley.
south, I guess I could say,
Yeah, it's south.
because north of that is
mean, it
mainly
looks like-
woods.
This might be a house there.
South is, there's some,
But I was saying south on Danny Webster Highway.
no, there's some residential in Woodbury.
There
over
is.
here.
Yes.
There is,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
There's a couple
Through
on
the
one
woods,
side
I
and
see,
there's
yeah,
another one
okay.
on another
Yeah.
side. So there's a number of houses there.
And there's Hadley Drive.
Uphill,
which
yeah,
is
exactly,
separated
uphill on
in
Hadley
elevation.
Road.
Yes. I mean,
Yeah,
close.
that wouldn't be an issue. with the
I would be surprised if
You think so?
the sound's going to travel through the
We-
woods up the hill. to
We
the
have
houses.
heard when music was held last year from the residents of Hadley
Really?
that they were not happy.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Was it coming?
I can't verify if it came from Tomahawk or not.
Right, because last summer, every Thursday night, there was karaoke at,
And they could hear it at the top of the hill through the woods.
and you could hear the karaoke.
Who does karaoke?
The Italian restaurant,
Portofino.
Portofino.
Oh, that's right. They would do it out.
That,
they do it
that
out
would
front,
make more
right?
sense.
Yeah. Yeah, you could hear that everywhere.
I'm surprised they could hear it at the top of the hill, but
Yeah.
I know you can hear the band
yeah.
when they
I'm
practice
just,
and play.
I don't personally have an issue. I
know you
just,
don't.
because you're saying
I
that he
get
already
it.
has friction with people in the
Understand.
complex, possibly in the neighborhood. I don't want to open up the door for even more friction, because if
Well,
I was a
when say
resident
that-
and I already had a problem with him doing this, and we give you these 2 notes, the first thing I'm doing tomorrow is writing a complaint, going with these.
Yeah. And that's why, as an attorney, I wouldn't do it. But SJ wants to move it forward and see where it's at. Like I said, 90% of the people he talks to love what he's doing out
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
sure it's just the way it is. So
Board members, any,
I guess I'm just
please?
so I was here last time and I'm trying to remember if there was anyone like from the public that was complaining about this or why we were talking about this noise and you know making sure there was a problem. Was there public comments last time that there was an issue that people had come in and that
I
this was
think
an
Nelson
issue
brought
or
up that the residents up on the top of the hill, which is, it's fair. I mean, it's uphill, so.
okay, but nobody of the residents
We didn't
or
have
anything.
anybody here. We've never had anybody show up. And I did the Tomahawk signs. I've done the containers at ZBAs. I've done this. I've done 4 or 5 public hearings and I haven't had one person show up yet.
Yeah, like I said,
Robert, we've
the
sent
only
out-
thing,
Notices
Oh, yeah.
properly, correct?
yes, we've notified all these hearings.
Up on top of the hill.
People have
Yeah.
not come out to the hearings to express anything. Like I say, we've heard phone calls in the office sporadically. I think even just that one maybe, but that's about it.
Board members, any input? Miss?
Matt, do they need to have music?
No, I don't think so. I think it was just SJ is looking to try and do fundraisers for the school, and that's he thought was part of
If
it.
they,
that was
if
there.
they did an event without having a band there or even, just a guitar player, would that satisfy what he's trying to do? and eliminate the issue with noise?
I would just offer that if the Italian place is doing karaoke and the martial arts is doing stuff, I would like to have one acoustic player then. I'm
Understand.
just, if everybody else is already doing it out here, which I wasn't I didn't know that. Check out karaoke now when late night, one of these nights.
Well, I don't know. I'm not trying to throw business under the bus, but the karaoke they do have, I don't know if that even falls because it's literally just a machine outside their front door, correct?
Yeah,
If you know, Robert, I don't know if we've even had.
I'm sorry, I didn't
Not
mean
to get
throw
any
them under
deeper
the
into
bus.
that because they're not
Nope.
board anyways.
Noise is noise.
I think if somebody's gonna complain, they're gonna complain about the people or circulate, they'll pick something if it's gonna be. I think that's kind of what that's what I'm saying here is that I don't know everybody around this area. I'm not looking to piss anybody off and have anybody angry at me for 10 years down the road. This thing allows us to come back here. I can tell you, talking to SJ for last year, he'll just, go do it somewhere else. I mean, this is where his site is right now. It makes sense for him, but if people are not gonna like him, he's not a person that wants to have people angry at him.
Does Portofino have permission to do karaoke night? Robert?
Outside?
Right, so the way we look at it is the town does not have a noise ordinance. We have nothing that would prohibit them from doing it.
That's
So-
why I didn't want to call out the name, but it is literally just a microphone. It's like 2 feet outside their front door.
But-
That's
but
why
if-
I didn't think it had.
But if they're doing the same thing that's gonna generate the same noise or more than what these guys are talking about, why are we having so much agita over it? Yeah, my dog knows that.
Because it's the right thing to do. This is something that's different. You're trying to make sure that you don't, piss off people by putting it in here. So, and we're not
Okay.
trying to be a bad neighbor.
Any other input, Mr. Board members?
Mister,
Mr. Disco, I'm going somewhere with that.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. I'm the one who brought up the noise and I was concerned about it. And I'm still concerned about it.
Well, no,
With
I
what
agree.
we've heard and with what we have here, this I'd have to run through our legal, our attorneys and so on. I'd be concerned about approving something where you allow anybody to bring it back for further consideration. We've never done that before
Well-
that I know of.
I did somewhat ask Mr. Price, what say somebody does come back in and complain, what do we do? Then
So
what?
how does that work?
Can
Yeah,
we
so-
review it? Do we have to literally have him come back and this cancels out their plans and they have to do them all over again?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the way the note's written, I would then get in touch with the ideally property owner, who would then have to reach out to the tenant, really, that would generate the cause for concern. And we would require them to come back in for a compliance hearing type of situation with the board and say, look, we're having some issues, we're getting complaints, this isn't working.
Yeah.
And compliance hearings are very prevalent. I mean, most towns will do them on controversial projects.
Would we be able to run this language just by legal? If not you, if you don't feel comfortable giving us like a
Yeah.
flat out.
If the board were to go for a conditional approval, we could revise that language to say something to the effect of the staff can work out the language of that note with legal or to the satisfaction of community development or something. I'll tweak that.
I would just like to have everything nailed down. Just, I mean, for the applicant's sake and for your sake, Mr. Peterson, as well. Ms. Healy, you had a question?
Not a question, just a comment. I would remind the board that we do not have a noise ordinance in the town of Merrimack. Therefore, you do not have anything to point to say you are in violation of this ordinance. So also, if you do it for one person who might have a noise issue, then you have to do it for everyone else as well, because now you've set precedents. So I would just caution the board, yeah, you can have legal look at it and everything else, but the bottom line is, we do not have an ordinance.
Yeah, but this is also going for the entire site, not just for one
Well,
applicant.
and I
office.
don't want to become the noise police.
Well, it's not just noise. My point is like he said at the beginning, he does not have a letter signed off by every resident, occupier, however, tenant of that property. So I mean, they have equal right to use the property as he does, and they should all, however, they have their, leases signed off. But I'm just trying to, by running it by legal, trying to make sure we have a way out, to put it flatly, if we agree for this. Mr. Disco.
A note on the
Yeah.
plan gives you guys that right.
I have another problem. I have a problem with the traffic circulation and blocking it off too. I didn't mention that this time.
I was gonna go there now that we have,
But, you know, I will not be in favor of a motion to approve this. That's where I'm coming from.
even, so I was gonna ask, I mean, granted, Captain Manuel is sitting in, I don't know if fire has any issues with this, but, maybe we could ask him if he does, if he would like to come forward, since we have him in the audience anyways.
Not to put you on the spot.
No, I'm sorry. You just introduce yourself one
And
more
that-
time.
And that's good that you do come.
Correct.
John Manueli, Fire Marshal. Where exactly are you planning on putting blocks? What are you talking about as far as blocking it?
We talked about Jersey barriers or something like that, temporary barriers, plastic barriers. So we did one in this location here and one on this location here. So the building comes to the corner up here, Tomahawk.
Yep.
So come up to the pavement here.
So we'd still have access down that,
You'd still have access from this side here, down the whole side of the building. And came that. So the circulation is still there for the units that are in this side. I mean, that road is mainly for this car dealership in the back, in my opinion.
so our point is this, if we had access through, I wouldn't say Jersey barriers, I would say sawhorses.
Okay.
We could move sawhorses out of the way. What we don't want to see is tables and chairs set up in that area so that if we have to bring an engine or an ambulance through, we're going to be having to try and get through a built-up area like that. Okay? If we
So you
can
wanna
push a
make sure you
sawhorse
have-
out of the way,
Access fully through it?
correct.
Okay.
If we can push sawhorses out of the way, it shouldn't be a big deal.
If you had to drive an ambulance through.
If we had to move tables, chairs, a band, stuff like that, it would
We
become.
put all that, that's not there, we wouldn't have to do any of that, we'd keep that area clear, I just, so like on our Main Street programs and stuff like that now, the biggest thing is somebody driving through your party.
And
Yeah,
there's,
I mean-
and there's the balance on that.
Right, right.
And there is a balance on that, but realistically, like I said, Jersey barriers they're not temporary, they're kind of permanent.
Well, what about the plastic ones that are a little bit heavier, if they can be moved? I'll look into it.
Yeah, look into something if we can move it. Like,
Okay,
so the
move it.
plastic ones are typically filled with water. Again, that's not gonna be moved very easily. They actually use those at Portofino to designate their exterior dining area. So it's gotta be something that can be moved, easily.
Okay.
No,
Now you're talking about a permanent addition to the site. That's a whole different
We're
animal.
talking 6 events a year is what we called this out.
12 of them.
I called out 6 events on Sundays, I believe is what it was. We called out 6 barbecue events. The barbecue events aren't like this. They're just selling, he cooks his barbecue in the smoker and brings it inside the shop and uses it there, the patio and stuff like that. These would only be Sunday events. That would be closed off. And
That's not clear in the application.
it's in the note, it should be, but okay, I'll clean it up.
And see, now that from the other, it brings up a little bit of a concern more for me, because I was thinking more of, I liked having that blocked off and having a more of a safety issue with the parking there, where if you're having an event like that. Now, if it's just going to be some sawhorses and something like that there, someone could falsely, used to driving back through there could be signs, but there's potential for me to have an accident of cars potentially going into.
And you're not wrong, because there is that balance that we try and strike with. Once the outside eating became, much more prevalent because of COVID, there was a balance as to what was protective. And typically we would say concrete Jersey barriers. In this situation, it's not a all summer long location. There's not going to be people there all summer long. It's going to be 6 events a year, 1 day each time. So we're trying to strike a balance as to what is going to be safe for the public, but what's also going to be realistic as far as, the property owner and the Tomahawk Tavern, what they want to do. Again, our big concern is getting through there in an emergency, and I can't even tell you what the emergency would be. Would it be a car fire? Would it be a medical emergency? I mean, unfortunately, at this point, the site itself, you don't know what the emergency could be. So realistically, we want to be able to get through there in any type of emergency.
and if you've got barricades, you can do that.
If
And the
it's-
barricade
It's a
will keep
barricade
the-
that can
the
be
traffic.
moved, right? But putting up a concrete Jersey barrier is
No.
not something we can move out of the way.
Captain Manuel, have you guys had a chance to look at these plans yet, or is this the first time you've seen them?
I've seen the plans. I know my inspector actually worked with Tomahawk
Okay.
over a couple of other issues, so he's worked with it more than I have, but I have been,
So
you know,
the department in
looking.
general is.
We have seen the plans, yeah. We're just trying to come up, like I said, with a balance based on how many times a year it is, the location it is. And there is the other building behind there is an auto repair shop.
Correct.
So we want to be able to get to that without any problems. And that back access that you're talking about here is really not wide enough to get our apparatus through there. That's a pretty narrow
I
spot.
think it is.
You think so?
Not behind the buildings, but coming off of Woodbury.
No, I'm talking about behind the building.
Yeah, but you've got plenty of room off Woodbury to get there.
Correct. Right, and there was talk originally of blocking it closer to Woodbury. That's not on the table anymore.
Oh, up here?
Yeah,
Well, I was trying to leave this open thinking that
Right.
made more sense.
right. But like I said, our issue is trying to get down here is very tight.
Mhm.
I don't think we can actually make the turn or anything like that with one of our engines.
Well,
We
there's
do
no
have-
turn here. This one
It
doesn't
doesn't
have.
even end there, it
No,
goes
this,
straight to the street. You're
yeah,
right.
yeah,
So,
this is not like the other one
Yeah,
that
that goes
has
straight
it.
to the street, so,
Yeah, this one just.
so, yeah,
So that's why this to me was just for the automotive and that over here kind of deal.
right.
Okay.
We could, it's something we can work out. We can work with them on that if, you know, that's not gonna be a major issue as far as, again, for something limited to 6 or 12 or whatever it is, times per year, we can be flexible for stuff like that.
Yeah, just so staff, everybody understands, this is 2 to 6 max. It's probably 2 events. Note number 22 outlines that. This is the max 6 events on Sundays. That's all we're talking about. That's all I've ever been talking about. So yeah, I'm sorry that was misunderstood. No, we're not.
Between the hours. of 8
I
a.m. and 8
think,
p.m.
Yeah, only on
Robert-
Sundays, 6 times a year, that's it. And most likely 2, but I told him to ask for 6 because he has 3 and I want him to go back.
Okay.
Robert's interpretation was also that it was 12 in one of his memos to the board.
No, it's right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, he is.
Maximum 6.
Yeah, I've
It's on the
got,
notes.
I think I interpreted that as 6 barbecue
We
events,
never got
up to
this.
6 barbecues plus up to
It's there,
6
so.
standard fundraiser type things.
The barbecue's been more inside now. It's just a smoker put on the site there, so you can see where the smoker was, because I think he was doing a drive-through or something. And you
Yeah,
told
which
him
we had
stop.
issues with. Yep.
So, one of the other thoughts, Matt, is if you were to put, you know, it's a fairly wide spot. If you were to say, put a couple of those water-filled barricades and maybe one.
Opening that you can get through,
Where
right?
we can get
Do
through.
a combination.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a couple of the water-filled barricades and maybe one spot for a sawhorse that would allow us to access it. That might be something that would work out as more protective for a
Both
car
sides.
coming through, but still giving us access. So we could work with that.
Okay.
Okay.
I will look into that.
Thank you, Captain Manuel. Board members, any further questions?
One thing I wanted to mention was the presence of the storage containers is shown on this plan now that was just shown to us. And I understand that there was going to be an application for a variance or a
Yeah, that was a proposed condition of approval because this is the first plan that we had seen that actually showed where on site they were in relation to setbacks for the property, which showed when we got that plan, it now showed that they do encroach and they're large enough to be considered structures.
yes.
So should the board go to approve this, it was a condition of approval. If the board does not go to approve this, it's still, the containers would have to be dealt with regardless.
Okay, I just wanted to remind the board of that and the staff as well.
It's
Yeah,
on my list. I had a.
I
rough
agree with you,
January.
Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Disco.
So, reading more on
Do what?
really what the purpose of a compliance hearing is, I don't think that solution would work.
I agree, because it's pretty much just to make sure they're compliant with their plans in the first place. And we
It's
give them
it's really
permission.
it's compliant with precedent conditions where a judgment action is necessary, not to reopen a general discussion afterwards. So honestly, given that, I think that note might do more harm than good. And honestly, it might just understanding where your client wants to try to make everybody happy. Frankly, the best solution would be to just come up with the best possible plan up front and then just let that be the controlling document, not open up any chance for anybody to come back regardless.
I would just like to save him headache, because the situation you're describing sounds like he already has people that don't want him to do anything like this.
No, it's just CVS. How do you find the entity to sign off on the letter? That was his big one. There's one tenant in there. Everybody else loves him because they love his food. But there's one he's like, I'm not going to get that one. So I can get the owner. I can get 90%.
General manager, I don't
But if
know.
I don't have them all, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? I didn't
Yeah,
know where
yeah.
you guys would go with it. So I was trying to go that direction. It sounds like at this point, I mean, if you want me to continue this for 2 weeks or 4 weeks to work out something with Robert and the fire department, again, this is 6 times a year and we're.
It doesn't,
we're
yeah,
not-
no, I'm not saying.
I don't even know if actually he's even going to do one here. Honestly,
It, doesn't,
from what I've
it honestly
heard,
does
but I'm
not sound
trying-
like many people have an issue with this.
Right.
Anyways, it sounds like you can work with most people with it. Anyways, I would just like to find the easiest solution where if something does come up, we can actually handle it instead of you guys do it, we give you permission to do it. Somebody has an issue, they come back to us, and we're just kind of standing here like, well, we don't know what to do now.
I think instead of the notes relaying back to planning board, the notes become more specific on what he's
I
allowed
agree.
to do.
I agree. So, I may not speak for the whole board, but I would like to continue this and allow you to deal with staff to kind of fine tune these a little bit.
Yep.
Board members, are we in agreement? Do we hear a motion to that?
So moved.
Moved by Miss Christensen. Do I hear a second?
To what date?
Oh, I apologize. 2 weeks.
No.
Would that be enough, or do you want to go a full
Nah,
month out?
I just don't want to. I give too
To
many
the end,
meetings set up then.
meeting at the end of March.
Yes, please.
March 21st.
21st. That's good for you, Mr. Peterson.
We'll figure it out. But yes, gives me more time.
Is that good for your motion, Ms. Christensen?
Yes.
Do I hear a second? Ms. Bonchon with a second. Any questions, comments? All in favor of the continuance, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Mr. Disco in opposition, all abstaining. That is 6-1-0. Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you. See you next month.
Good night.
You done for the night? You done for the night?
The only one we saw all night. Just him and Captain. Okay, item number 7 on the agenda is McDonald's USA LLC as the applicant and CP Merrimack LLC as the owner. This is continued review for consideration of a waiver of full site plan to reconfigure the existing single order point drive-through with a dual order point configuration. The parcel is located at 9 Dobson Way in the C2 General Commercial and Aquifer Conservation Districts and Wellhead Protection Area. That's tax map 4D dash, I'm assuming you have the number there somewhere, Robert, because it's not on my form.
Oh, it got cut off.
Yeah, that's fine. Lot 054-03, case planning board number 2022-47. This item is continued from the December 6th, 2022 and January 17th, 2023 meetings. Robert, what do you have for us on this one?
This applicant has also requested a continuance to March 21st.
Also move.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Christensen, seconded by Ms. Healy to continue this to March 21st. Do I have any questions, any comments? All in favor of the continuance, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? That's 7-0-0 to continue that. Item number 8 is Nick Napier as the applicant and Robert Napier Revocable Trust as the owner. This is continued review for consideration of a waiver of full site plan review to convert an existing boat storage and service facility into an automotive service facility, thus allowing for automotive repair, service, and storage uses and associated site improvements. The parcel is located at 54 Daniel Webster Highway in the industrial I-1 and Aquifer Conservation Districts. That's tax map 2D, lot 29, case number planning board 2023-06. This item is continued from the February 7th, 2023 planning board meeting. Robert, what do you have for us on this one?
Just as a reminder, applicant was last here 2 weeks ago to introduce the project to the board. We pretty much got all the way through that presentation. Board had no issue, has already granted a waiver of full site plan review and accepted the applicant as complete. Application as complete, rather. The only thing that held it up at that time was staff had requested a minor traffic analysis because of the change of use. The applicant has since provided that. So at this time, with no issues with that analysis, staff would recommend a conditional approval.
Thank you, Mr. Price. The applicant, please introduce themselves and then tell us what they have.
Sure. Nathan Chamberlain, Fieldstone Land Consultants. As Robert mentioned, we were here 2 weeks ago with this application and everything seemed, the board seemed pretty comfortable with it. It was Skips Marine, which serviced boats, I guess, and sold boats, serviced boats, stored boats. And then this applicant wants to do kind of a hobby shop where he restores vehicles. And so it's going to be very low, low intensity use. And we did have our VHB prepare a traffic study. There was really no IT trip generation numbers for the Skip Marine property, so they just kind of did it based on what we're proposing. And very low trip generation in the peak hour. So, you know, their summation was that, you know, anything less than 100 trips a day or 100 trips in the peak hour is considered insignificant. And so that's basically the conclusion they came up with, because they didn't have anything to compare it to. But I can't imagine Skip's Marine is going to be much less than what we had here, as far as, you know, 10 trips in the AM peak and 14 trips in the PM peak. So, and, you know, Robert still wants us to get DOT sign off, which we don't really have an issue with. That could be a condition.
Thank you, Mr. Chamberlain. Board members, as Robert already said, we already reviewed full site plan, waived full site plan review. So do we have any questions for the applicant?
I just wanted to understand what he said. I thought I heard you say the peak hour had 100 cars going in here?
No, I said the peak, anything below under 100 trips per hour in the peak hour is considered insignificant.
Oh, okay.
So this is an insignificant
This is
impact.
I think
way
We're at 14, not
Way
100.
insignificant. Yeah, that's what I thought. I expected it to be fairly insignificant. In fact, I'd be hard pressed to figure how you get that many cars in and out to a hobby shop. But that's, yeah. Is there a sidewalk on this property or not? Or is it,
Uh,
I
I
didn't
don't
show.
think so.
Yeah.
that I'm not sure of. Does not appear so.
Is there one on the adjacent property?
I don't think there's any along that stretch.
Actually, so I've got Google Maps in front. This sidewalk is in front of this property.
Is it?
There is a sidewalk in front of this
It does-
property,
you
yep.
know, now that I look at it, it looks
And
like-
there is a sidewalk across the street as well.
I knew there was one across the street.
I knew there was one across the street and I meant to
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
look the next time I went by and I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. I have no issues, Mr. Chairman.
No other questions, Mr. Disco. Other board members? Any other questions, comments? Do we hear any motions, given that we've already waived full site plan?
Public
review?
comment, just in case.
Public, good point.
Come on, get with it.
Time is now 7:28, and I'd like to open up the public comment section. Any members of the public that wish to step forward and speak on this item, please do so now. Captain Manueli? No? Okay. Seeing there's no one wishes to speak, I'm now going to close the public comment. Board members, any more questions, comments, motions? Are you trying to find it, Nelson?
I'm trying to find your language.
Like to make a
And I've got
motion,
last
Mr. Chair?
month's-
Yes, Ms. Healy, please.
Yeah, I find that, make a motion to find that with the granted waiver of full site plan review and the proposed conditions of approval, the site plan application meets all applicable regulatory requirements, and further to grant conditional final approval to the site plan subject to the recommended conditions of approval presented in the staff memo dated February 17th, 2023.
Motion made by Ms. Healy. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Disco. Do I hear any conversation, comments, questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? That's 7-0-0 in favor of the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chamberlain. On to item agenda 9, that is discussion and possible actions regarding other items of concern. Mr. Price, do we have any
I have nothing tonight.
board members? Any items of concern? Not seeing any. Moving on to approval of the minutes from February 7th, 2023.
I move we approve.
I have a motion made by Ms. Christensen.
Yeah.
I saw Mr. Disco's hand up, so I'm going to give him the second. Do we have any comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All abstaining? Ms. Tracy and Gleam in the abstention.
We adjourn?
I have a motion to adjourn made by Ms. Christensen, seconded by Ms. Healy. Comments, questions, concerns? Not seeing any. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All abstaining. That's 7-0-0 to adjourn. Thank you, board members. Please remember
Adjourning to someplace specific?
to turn off your microphones.